Do you enjoy fast-paced gameplay where every minute sounds like a PTSD attack? Do you enjoy interacting with the most normal people society has to offer?
There's so many of them. Oh, there's too many. We got a grenade over the wall. Grenade over the wall. Help me. Help me.
Are you homosexual?
Yeah. You kind of suck your...
If you answered yes to either of those questions, stay tuned while I take a look at the hit indie game Battlebit Remastered. I heard a lot of hype about this game, and the massive popularity it gained seemingly out of nowhere piqued my interest, despite not typically being something I would see myself enjoying. This may come as a surprise to some of you guys, considering I'm peak Sigma male gamer, but I don't actually play a whole lot of multiplayer games. The mere thought of interacting with other people sends my brain into anaphylactic shock. That being said, every so often a game comes along and proves that I can still have fun with online gaming, and as an added bonus, it hands EA a fat L on a platter by outdoing them at their own video game. And since the gameplay is the real meat of the game, I'm going to briefly describe that, and then I'll go over the rest of the miscellaneous stuff later. In Battlebit, there's 5 main game modes: Infantry Conquest and Conquest being bigger maps with vehicles where you capture flags, Rush is your standard attack and defense game mode, Domination is smaller maps where you capture the flag, and my personal favorite is Frontline, which is essentially tug of war over different capture points, with even more planned game modes on the way. You can pick from your preferred game size as well, 32v32, 64v64, and 127 vs 127. And surprisingly, even on the big maps with 254 players, the game and the servers seem to run great. I never had any issues. It seems like they made optimizing the servers, netcode, and the game performance a priority when designing the game, and that's a nice change of pace compared to what we've been getting for PC lately. The games are usually chaotic, only getting more so with more players in the game. You'll be getting shot at from all directions, with explosions and parts of buildings being demolished all around you, truly simulating trench warfare at its finest. Obviously, that means the time that you'll be live for is very short, but thankfully the respawn is too. In conjunction with the fact that you can choose your spawn point at any of your team's captured zones or your squad mates as long as they're not directly in combat, meaning it doesn't break the pacing of the game. In addition, each player gets bandages that can be either used on themselves or to revive their teammates. It really keeps the gameplay at a quick pace despite all the chaos around you. Even if you die, you'll be back up in no time. I'm not the biggest fan of modern shooters. The realistic time to kill and general gameplay of these types of games was always a barrier that I never really cared for. I always preferred the wacky TF2 style gameplay, so I never really had the nostalgia that most people have for something like Battlefield or Call of Duty. However, the gameplay for Battlebit's genuinely pretty good. I think it's a great game just to pick up and play, and even as a casual FPS player such as myself, it can be a lot of fun. There's quite a few maps to choose from, corresponding with the different game modes. Thankfully, most of them are pretty good, and some are the shitty subway tunnel map. I don't really like this one. My personal favorite's probably Tensa Town. I also really like this one with the cargo containers. Both of these just have a good layout and support pretty much any playstyle from long range to short, so I'd say they're some of the standout maps that I look forward to playing on the most. Nearly all of them, though, have a near infinite amount of spots to shoot from and strategic choke points to contest. It really feels like they were all pretty well thought out, and none seem to be particularly unbalanced for either team. Unlike some games, there's no stamina, so movement isn't a slog. Even on the biggest of maps, there's action happening at many points on the map, so you can just sprint to wherever you have to go and vault over smaller obstacles. In addition to the vehicles that you get on bigger maps, this makes traversing the maps a breeze. There's vehicles for land, sea, and air. Some are strictly for transport, and some are strictly for war crimes. I think one of the coolest features of the vehicles is the rope that you can hang off of on the helicopters. I don't know if it's particularly useful, but it is very fun. For the most part, the vehicles handle pretty well. However, some of the land vehicles do have a tendency to get stuck on bits of terrain, but in their defense, even the most pompous of Jeep owners shouldn't be trying to drive a Jeep up a nearly vertical slope, so that's probably my bad. Other options for movement include grappling hooks that you can eventually unlock, as well as your standard FPS movement staples such as crouching and going prone, as well as leaning, which makes almost every character in the game look like this. Believe me, I understand the hunched over gamer look, but that can't really be practical in a combat situation. These options allow for very dynamic gameplay where you could essentially shoot or be shot at from anywhere. It makes most areas viable, and oftentimes that's how the gameplay ends up. Either you getting the drop on someone else, or vice versa. You can also drag your fallen homies to a safer spot to resurrect them, usually to have them die almost immediately after, followed shortly by yourself, but I do think it's a nice option to have. There's currently 6 classes in the game. There's Squad Leader, which basically pings objectives and has access to special drops. Assault's the basic bitch automatic weapon, grunt type that charges into the front lines and is good in most situations. Medic's the healer, or if you're playing the game not as intended, it's Assault 2, Assault Harder. Engineer gets access to the Unga Bunga Big Boom rocket launcher for taking out vehicles. Support has heavy armor and carries bonus ammo and grenades. And Recon is the sniper class. Each of these classes have access to certain weapons and gadgets, and some have bonuses to certain stats. I could get into all of them here, but going over specifics isn't very interesting. Plus, I almost exclusively play the Giga Virgin sniper class and be useless to the team. So in lieu of talking about them, I can tell you about my typical experience. Oftentimes I wander around the outskirts trying to find a nice spot to shoot from, only to see 0 people, and then I go a little further into the action to immediately get shot at from some fuck-ass hiding in a building. There's quite a long list of weapons in the game, all of them having different attachments that augment their stats and functionality. Like, the amount of customization for the weapons kind of makes my head spin. However, in general they all boil down to one of like 5 things. Some kind of automatic weapon, big boom rocket launcher, bolt action sniper or marksman rifle, or a pistol. The automatic weapons have the most variety, from SMGs to LMGs and assault rifles. They're all surprisingly accurate and are, in my opinion, just objectively some of the strongest weapons. You can play the sniper, but oftentimes the glint from your scope is essentially a big target on your back. And the assault rifles are pretty much just as accurate, so I'd say in most cases, it's more efficient just to play one of the classes that has access to those. The others do have their niche applications though, typically for defending choke points or taking out vehicles in the case of the engineer. In general, the gunplay is very good across the board. There's obviously some guns that are better than others, but there's no guns that particularly feel bad to shoot. If you're looking to just pick up and play the game, the starting weapons are more than serviceable. The shooting in the game just feels good. It seems like that was a priority when developing the game, as all the weapons have recoil that just feels natural, and the hit detection is spot on in most cases. Never once did I complain about something feeling like bullshit when I died. That's all good, however, now I have to talk about one of my very few complaints with the game. The progression is pretty grindy. You only get access to a few weapons starting out, and the rest you earn as you play and level up. That's all fine, but if you're locking most of the weapons to the late game, that could lead people to get bored early on, or have newer players feel as though they're at a disadvantage. I like that the game doesn't paywall the better gear behind dumbass microtransactions, however, it does take some time to unlock some of the alternate weapons. I think it would be nice to have access to a few more starting options, just to add a bit of variety and to incentivize different playstyles, but leveling up isn't too offensively bad, so it's really not a big issue. In addition to your arsenal of weapons, you also have gadgets, which act as support or defensive items, typically. These are all your FPS staples: smoke grenades, impact grenades, flashbangs, claymores, and the fun gadget. As well as drones and a few others. These are all fun and have their own niche applications. You can even use squad points to build fortifications for areas, which add a neat little tactical advantage to holding on to capture points. I don't often see this part used, but I do think it is a nice option to have. I've also seen some people complain about everyone having access to mines, but I've never had any issue with them honestly, so I'm gonna have to chalk that up as a skill issue for them. I don't have much to say about the graphics. It's simplistic, but it absolutely works. The contrast between the realistic FPS gameplay and everyone looking like a slightly edgy Roblox character is pretty fun, and the maps in general look pretty good. The lighting's all fine and most of the guns have a pleasing amount of detail. The sound design is also quite good if you can pick apart one noise from the choir of gunfire and explosions going on around you. It's nothing groundbreaking, but it sounds good and it gets the job done. I think this game has one of the most fun online communities that I've seen in recent years and fosters a feeling that I haven't seen in many games lately. It rewards teamwork and helping out your squad, and it generally feels like people are just there to have a good time. I think this is when the game is at its best. When you're making a final push to capture an objective, or you're all piling into a vehicle to get to the front lines, it can be really hype and lead to some funny interactions. This leads me to the in-game voice chat. I don't know about you, but I've noticed that, shockingly, video games don't always have the best community, which either leads to boring restricted chats or being called a slur that you've never heard of from someone in a language that you're not even sure is real, who also sounds like they're 8 and shouldn't even be on this video game to begin with. That's not the case for this game.
Fuck you, man. That was good, that was good.
This game has one of the more lively and interesting chats that I've seen in recent years. It's got proximity chat for both allies and enemies, squad chat for your squad, and voice chat on death, which makes for some of the most funny interactions that I've seen as of late.
What? Oh my god, bruh. Hey, bruh, someone. You can be bruh.
And for me, that might be the biggest draw and most standout feature. I enjoy multiplayer games, well, for the multiplayer. I know, groundbreaking statements on this channel. And they're at their best when people are engaging with each other and having a good time. It makes for some of the funniest moments and keeps me personally coming back. With the quick respawn and the generally fast gameplay and ease of getting into the game, it makes for a very chill community, which is why I think it fosters such a fun environment as opposed to certain other games where everyone speaks to you like you've just shit in their cereal.
Thanks.
Fuck you, your grandmother gets bullied at bingo, you
You're
pussy.
horseshit. Suck my dick, you fucking fat fuck.
Oh my god. Why are you so angry?
I wasn't sure what to expect going into this, but this Battlefield-like game made on Unity by 3 people that looks like Roblox ended up being one of the better games that I've played this year, far exceeding my expectations and beating out its big budget competitors. Despite being in early access still, my complaints with it are minor, and I really can't wait to see where they go with it. I can only hope that it continues to grow and get the attention that it deserves. It's got one of the most fun communities and some of the most satisfying gameplay out of any recent multiplayer shooter, so if you're looking for a cheap indie game to play with boys, I can't recommend it enough. And in a landscape filled with bloated, unfinished microtransaction-ridden shooters, this one's a breath of fresh air. My objective rating for this game is 8 war crimes out of my KDA. Hey there, thanks for watching another one of my dumb videos. If you want to see more stuff like this, liking and subscribing helps the channel grow and I would personally appreciate it a ton. If you're looking for more of my stuff, I have playlists in the end cards or the descriptions. There's video essays and other game reviews, most of which I'm really happy with. Also feel free to follow my Twitter. I'm not calling it X because that's stupid. Anyway, that'll also be in the description if the website hasn't burned down by the time I put this video out. What did you think of Battlebit? Do you have another game that you want me to check out? Let me know in the comments. I always enjoy reading them and responding when I can. And as always, thank you once again for watching, have a good one, and I'll see you next time.